welcome to another episode of Why Can't We Be Friends?
Let me tell you something, Holly Ann.
Tell me something, Sallie Beth.
If you follow me on Instagram, then everyone knows the story.
God.
What I'm about to share. So yesterday, I was trying to be, no, it wasn't yesterday, it was 2 days ago, which is very relevant.
I need the truth. When was it?
It was Wednesday. I was trying to be a relevant entrepreneur.
What does that mean?
I was trying to make a reel for Instagram in the TikTok, a punch needle thing, and I was keeping my niece. So I had George, I had my niece who is 3 months old, and Dot. George and the niece were asleep, and I had an hour before they were going to wake up. And I'm like, this is perfect. I know exactly what I want to make. I can do it mostly in the sunroom while Dot plays. We can get this thing done. So I make the thing, and then I go in my office. I give Dot a snack. I'm like, here's some crackers and some cheese. Eat your snack, which she usually does a good job, and she was playing Play-Doh, like she was having a good time. So I go in real quick to record a voiceover, and it's about time for me to get my niece up. And so I leave the office, and I come into my kitchen, and Dot has opened up the pantry, which I didn't know she could open because the handles are all the way at the top, and it's like a flat front.
She's like a spider monkey.
She wedged her little tiny fingers in there, and she had found another can of cocoa powder.
How much cocoa powder do you have in your house? Are you really like pumping out the
We
hot
had it
cocoa?
in 2 different locations. I didn't realize. So this was the second jar of cocoa powder, because if you guys will hearken back to a few weeks ago, I broke my vacuum after vacuuming up her first incident with cocoa powder, which was in a different drawer. This was a different area in the kitchen, more cocoa powder. It wasn't on my rug. However, she had also found the vegetable shortening, and there was shortening and cocoa powder everywhere. And the cocoa powder was dusted all over the floor, and there's little footprints like skating through it. And I see all of that, and she is just slamming a bag of mini chocolate chips.
That was the best part of that video.
And I'm walking up, I'm like, what did you do? And she's just continuing, like, I'm going to eat chocolate chips until you take them away from me.
I'm going to live this out.
Yes. And so then it's like I have to get my niece up. George is going to be up soon. I can't get him up until this is all cleaned because he's going to crawl right into it. And so I'm like, go to the bathroom. And I'm laughing. I know I need to discipline her, but also she looked so darn funny. And she's just slamming chocolate chips and having a great time. So I send her to the bathroom, and I'm just trying to like get some of it up. Luckily, Andrew had the shop vac out, so we did have, because we still haven't gotten a new vacuum, so we've just been using a shop vac, which actually has been pretty handy. And so I have to pause and get my niece's bottle ready and go get her up. And while I do that, I notice that Dot did not go to the bathroom like I told her to. She instead went to her bedroom, and there's chocolate on the walls, and there's chocolate on her carpet.
Oh, God.
And so I turn on the bath, and I'm just put her in there, and I'm just like, stay in here. Well, meanwhile, I'm doing that. I hear George start to wake up. So then I have to get him a bottle, and it's just everyone's away.
It's chaos.
It's chaos. And so I call Andrew, and of course he's not answering his phone. And I just text him like, I need
SOS.
help. Yes. And I don't get overwhelmed by parenting situations. But I was very close to losing my cool. And then I found myself really frustrated at Dot for doing a 2-year-old thing that really was my fault, because I thought I could leave my 2-year-old unattended.
With snacks.
And I should have known. I just should have known. That's what it came down to.
At least it's a nice change from having true chocolate on the walls instead of poop that she normally likes to throw around her room.
Well, also, she likes to poop in the bathtub, and I was giving Annie, my niece, I was giving her a bottle. George was in his crib. I can't move because I've got a baby, and I'm trying to get her this bottle, and I'm just thinking, if Dot poops while she's in this bathtub,
that will be it.
I will sit in the corner, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
So
she didn't, thankfully. She spared me.
Ready for a third child? I think that's a good transition.
not at this moment. I'm going to wait.
I'm going to pass.
Just a little bit. So Dot is she's really entering toddlerhood. Mm-hmm. Holly and Everly came over the other day, and Dot bit Everly. Everly like grabbed a toy, and Dot did not want her to grab that toy. And I'm just like, oh my, you're a feral animal. And Andrew goes, he's like, you are really, because I've just been like, what are we going to do? And he's like, hun, she's a 2-year-old, and this is what 2-year-olds do. They're feral animals, and you just have to
They're wild beasts.
They're wild, and you just have to keep going. And one day they won't be biting their friends, hopefully. But it really, as I was reflecting on it, I was realizing I'm frustrated with her. That's the wrong place to be frustrated. It really was. I was frustrated because I thought that I could do my thing and expected more of her than she's able to give. Mm-hmm. And I think that causes tension in motherhood when you think, well, I can just continue to do everything that I want to do and insert a child into this situation and nothing has to change. And it was like unreasonable expectations. Mm-hmm. That's where my frustration was.
I find myself any time that I'm frustrated at Everly, or even Micah, we'll throw Micah into this mix. Anytime that I'm frustrated by something, this morning's a great example. So Friday mornings are normally our like family days. Micah's off work. I choose to not work. Like I try to set up my week to where we're going to have this full day that we can kind of just do whatever we want. And so we have been in a bad habit of staying up really late because we're in the depths of a show right now, and it's a murder show, and we have got to know what is happening. And so when I tell you that has it been 2 weeks since I got back from Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
I have not went to bed before midnight in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I am so young, so wild and free. So Micah has been asleep before midnight. This is a me problem. My brain, it's not even that I'm thinking of business ideas. I'm just awake. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to keep my Kindle by my bed so I can read at night. But then I just resort to some TikTok videos because that algorithm's really good. And either way, up late. And then I still got up early this morning. I went for a run. Props to me. It wasn't early enough though, because I got back in the house and then I was like, okay, I'm baking a couple loaves of bread, so I needed to prep the loaves. And then I decided I should probably wash my running shoes. And I saw this cleaning hack on TikTok the night before. So I was like, okay, soak my shoes. Now I need to make Everly and all of us breakfast. And at this point, it's about 8:30, almost 9 o'clock. And you were coming over around 9:45. I still had not showered. I still was in my running clothes. Micah didn't get up until... It was 8 or a little after, which is pretty late considering he's normally up by like 3:30 in the mornings during the week. So started to get a little hectic, and Everly was eventually at the point where she was in her crib and she was like, Mama, like, come on, where are you at? Because I'm doing way too much just in this small window. And then Micah started to get flustered because he's trying to set things up. And I told him the night before, I was like, why don't you set everything up? He was like, I'll have plenty of time in the morning.
Famous last words.
We were both just a little tense and stress-filled of like, okay. But when I stop and think about it, I'm like, oh, that came because of us. It's not Everly's fault that she exists in the crib and we have to take care of her. It was, if we would have just bumped our clocks up a little bit earlier, everything would have been fine. And it also... on the topic of TikTok and just the stress-filledness, I came across a video 2 nights ago, and I was hesitant to even bring it up, but it just is something that I'm going to bring up right now. So it was a video, and it was a stay-at-home mom, and she put, when you're a stay-at-home mom and you have the exact same routine every day and start to lose your mind, all I think about is, and then it flashed to, she used to be an NFL cheerleader. And it was like, I just really miss that. Well, then I made the mistake of venturing into the comments because I was curious what people were saying about this. And I mean, hey, it's social media. It's all out there anyways. And the comment, I almost cried. I'm not even going to lie, reading the comments, which is such a mom thing. But it was all of these women. It was a mixed set of comments, as you can imagine. One set was talking about, this is exactly why I won't have kids. Second set was people going, you're really lucky to be a stay-at-home mom. I hope that you see the bright side. And then the third were people just in agreement of, I feel this exact same way. And there wasn't really any comment aside from those, because I don't know that there's another stance you can take. You reside in one of the three. And just reading them, it didn't make me go like this aggressive passion towards like, this is your child. Like, I'm going to fight for this. Like, I don't know. There's, social media heroes. But if anything, it just made me go like, okay, I don't think that this woman meant for the video to come across maybe how it did, because she was trying to, do a little crowd control in the comments of like, don't get me wrong, I'm obsessed with my child. I love being home. This is such a privilege. So glad. But I was like, I get the thought of, oh, I used to do things different. Like, my life looked a little bit different before I had Everly. We would, at the drop of the hat, go to the movie theater. I don't know. Just like random things like that. So I'm not shaming at all. And I don't look down on her for going, I used to be an NFL cheerleader. That was probably a big highlight of her life. If she grew up cheering and then like made it to NFL, like probably felt like a big, like I did it. But I think putting it out to social media, I think that was maybe more of a journaling prompt. She should have picked up The Quiet Place Journal by Courtney Weston that you can find on Amazon. But it felt more like a personal prompt. And I think this is where my frustration with motherhood and social media collide, is that for that first group of people, the ones, this is exactly why I will never have children, you're allowing someone else's opinion and view of something to alter a life choice for you of like entering into motherhood. And that made me sad. But just sitting back and going like, I'm so thankful that I'm not looking to social media for my validation or my like, okay, you're allowed to move forward with this.
We got a question when we did a question box, which was, I love being a mom, but I sometimes miss before I was a mom. And I have been ruminating on this. And I was thinking about it. And if you want to go back, Holly and I kind of shared our stories of how we decided, or what, our thought processes were.
Yeah.
Whenever we had kids. And I think it's called, what's that episode called? Like transitioning to motherhood in a self-driven society.
Yes.
It's a good episode if I do say so myself.
You just scroll on back.
Just go on.
Scroll.
But I was thinking about this. And I think the reason that people are so unsettled is because we are very self-centered. Yeah. And as I was thinking, I was like, do I miss who I was in high school? Like, do I go back and go, gosh, man, life was so much easier when I was in high school. Well, there are some things that I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go back and just only play volleyball in the summer and lay around the pool and have my parents' money and, all of that. But you don't stay there. You transition. And in every transitional phase of your life, there's a mourning period where you miss the way that things were. I mean, think of in childhood, you wonder what you're going to be like when you grow up. And then when you get older, you miss the simplicity of your childhood. And then before you have kids, you want to have kids. And then after you have kids, you miss, we spend a ton of time not really enjoying the moment that we're in. And I just think it is normal to miss certain seasons, and that also does not mean that you should go back to them. Part of me is like, yeah, there are things that I miss too, but I'm 30 now and I have 2 kids and a husband. I can't be like that. And so for as long as I go, I'm torturing myself because I can't go back to that. And even I proceeded to save all of the messes that Dot has made in our house to a highlight all the times. There were so many I had forgotten about. There's one where she has her little tiny kid-sized broom and she's sweeping up her poop that she had taken off her diaper in the sunroom. and she's sweeping it up. And then there was another one. I'd forgotten she'd done this. She had pooped, tried to clean it up, and there was just a turd wrapped in toilet paper on top of the toilet.
Yeah.
There was like and then the one she pooped in your favorite, in her crib, and she goes,
my favorite.
I'd like to change my undies.
It's the bet. You have to go watch the highlight.
It's
worth
funny.
pausing this episode just to go to Sallie's Instagram and watch that highlight.
I'd like to change my undies. It's so funny. And I put a disclaimer at the end that I'm not sharing these because I'm going, I can't get anything done because of my children. It's more so I have taken the approach like with Dot spilling cocoa powder and vegetable shortening all over. I just had to laugh.
Right.
And go, this is not the end of the world. Some Dawn and some good old thieves concentrate
and
cleaner.
A little bit of elbow grease.
It's going to get this up. And it's going to be okay. Like, what am I frustrated? I wasn't able to post the video that I wanted to post at the time that I wanted to post it. Like, what? She's 2. What does it matter? It's just, I don't know, perspective.
I was also just thinking on all of these things while I'm watching this video and thinking it is, we live in a time where we're more connected. I mean, we're sitting here recording this to send out to hundreds of people that are going to listen to it.
Thousands.
International.
Million.
We're big in Spain, okay? Either way, not saying that to be like, we're speaking to people, but it's like, no, it's a really cool time to be alive to where it's like, we can connect with people we could never connect with before. We can grow our businesses in ways that we could never do that before. And it's a cool, like, advantage on things. But then when I step back and view this side of social media, and really it's just like the human side of our desire to be seen, known, and loved, which is not a fault, but I think when it's not, the energy isn't put in the right direction, it's just like, let's step back and look at what we're really doing here. Whether it comes down to like these, like I said, this girl who made this video, I can't believe you would make a video like that. But I just wonder though, if you step back and go, and there's plenty of them out there, the ones that are, I'm frustrated at my husband when my husband won't take the trash out. And listen, I've laughed at some of those, and some of them I send to Micah, and he's like, that is funny. I do that.
Yeah.
Like, everything in its time and place. But when I step back and go, but as a whole, when this is our collective view as a group of like, yeah, motherhood's going to suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
There's nothing for you. Marriage is going to lock you down. You're going to be bossed around, or you have to share this with and it's like, if we don't stop, I'm sad. It makes me sad because I'm guilty of it too. This is not a preachy moment of look at how gross everyone else is, but to go, it's so easy to turn inward and to look at my problems and me and what I deserve and I miss when I used to play volleyball all the time and I was really fit and like I was the captain and like, and it's all this, but it's like, hey, that was great. Who cares? Yeah. Like, it's not right now. I feel more purpose in my life because my life is not centered around myself. Again, I'm not shaming anybody who doesn't have kids, because I also recognize there's a large group of people women who desire to have children more than anything in the world, and they struggle or they've had miscarriage. I mean, there's terrible, terrible things where I'm like, this is not again, go get pregnant right now because your life will have purpose. This is just kind of it gave me a check of going, I need to check myself. And when I'm, like we said, when I'm getting frustrated at Micah or Everly, is it their fault, or am I old enough and grown enough that I can go, you know what? That's on me. I made this about myself and it didn't need to be, or I'm the one who didn't take the time that was needed. You all don't have to mold your lives around me. Like, we can all work together. Sorry, a bird almost hit the window. We have a visitor.
He can't. That's it.
No, I was wrapping up anyways, but there's just a bird. It's like just staring at me in the window.
Well, I think that predominantly motherhood is presented as burdensome. Kids are burdensome. And I think, well, if you If you think that you can insert a kid into your life and not have to change anything, yeah, then they're going to feel like a burden.
You're going to hit some walls.
Yeah. But I also look at it and go, it's only a few years. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to make sacrifices somewhere.
Right.
And that's where I see friends who are struggling, and I'm like, you are going to have to sacrifice something. Mm-hmm. You can either work all the time, or you can have your kids all the time. But at some point, like, you're going to have to, one is going to have to come second. And because you can't do everything the same. Mm-hmm. And that's where it gets frustrating, is when you go, well, I'm going to be able to do everything the same. I can do everything. You can't. You can't do everything exactly the same. You have to make choices. And I get really annoyed with the phrase, well, it's all about balance. It's, I think, swap the word balance for priorities. Yeah. So Andrew and I were talking about our business. And for me, the driving factor for the Urban Acres is my children. And I've told Andrew, I'm like, if this takes me away from them more than it puts me with them, I'm killing it. Mm-hmm. I'm not killing it as crushing it. I mean, I'll quit it. It's on the table for me. I will cut it at any time that it no longer serves our family. That's my driving, determining factor. That might sound crazy. Like, well, you've built this thing. I'm like, I care more about Dot and George. And I think I don't want them to look back, especially when they're more cognizant of how I'm spending my time, and them to feel like I was constantly shooing them away so that I could do my own thing. I think that there's time for me to do my own thing, but there has to be a hierarchy of priorities, and not everything can live at the same level. So you might be going, well, that's not my hierarchy. Okay, that's fine. But you have to realize, like, something has to come second in everything that you do. I can either have a lot of money and not a lot of stuff, or I can have a lot of stuff and not a lot of money. Like, you have to figure out what's the hierarchy here. So,
well, and I think, we had Katie Selvage on the podcast last week, and if you didn't listen, we're not going to do this whole episode of plugging all our other episodes, but that, in regards to this specific conversation, I think it would be really maybe freeing for some of the women who might feel any of the things that we're talking about in this. But Katie talking about, defining for herself, I'm going to love my kids. I'm going to love my family. These are my priorities. And sometimes that means I drop my kids off somewhere so I can do a little bit of work. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it means I pick up my kids a little bit earlier because we're going to go do something fun, but still going, even like with motherhood, it doesn't mean I'm killing off my dream. Like, everything that I've ever wanted in life dies and ends here because now I'm a mom and my only care in the world is every step, moment, and breath is my child. That comes to a fault as well, because then eventually that child grows up and leaves and you're left at home with your spouse or family or whoever's around, to where it's like, there's nothing in life that when you invest all of yourself in, that is going to come back and go like, oh crap, well, that thing left or that thing moved on. But it's going, am I giving my all to something because it's all about me? I want myself up on the right, I want myself up on this pedestal and nothing else can touch it. It doesn't matter what my husband says. It doesn't matter what my kids need, because as long as that reel goes viral, I don't care about anything else. And it's like, that is not lasting. Mm-hmm. The social media can shut down right now. You can lose everything in a minute. And it's like, we as a society are so driven by this need and desire that I have to be known and known by everybody and valued by everybody, that we're missing the people that are right in front of us.
There was an Instagrammer that I followed who had 500,000 followers, went big in the early days of Instagram celebrity. And she did it for, I think, 5 years, like top of her game. She started losing her hair. The stress of doing all of that. her hair started falling out. And she talked about how she was out to dinner with her family and was trying to get a picture and was so ugly to her girls, trying to get them in the right, that she just had a moment going, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And she shut it down completely. Like, it took a while. She had to finish out contracts and all that, but she shut it down completely. And it was something that initially was really, she loved and her girls loved. They were a part of it. And then over time, just realizing this isn't what I need to be pursuing anymore. I really admired that she recognized that need for her family. And because you go, you're on top. What are you, like, let's just keep this thing going. And realizing that everything has a cost. So I could keep this thing going, but also what are my girls going to remember? What are my kids going to remember? There's a cost to everything. So Andrew and I've talked about this before, totally changed our lives last year. Andrew stepped away from his job. He works freelance. I have a business that I run. I'm mostly able to do it from home. And we have an RV, and we will take the kids with us and go do work things. Or in May, we went and lived in Florida on the beach for a week and just did like random things that we needed to do. And Andrew calls it being pre-tired instead of retired. Mm-hmm. We're retired early because when we go to these places, people are like, what do you guys do? And it's not that we're making tons of money so we can just go live wherever we want to. It's just a priority to us to spend as much time together as we can. And every older couple that we have come across as we've been traveling tells us, I wish I could go back and do what you guys are doing and realize that time with my family was more important than time building my thing. I miss that. I've never met someone that goes, yeah, I did that and I spent way too much time with my family. And we've taken a pay cut. We're not making as much money. We are not, I don't get to go shopping and do all the things that I want to do.
That one's harder for you to process.
It's really
sometimes.
Hard. Sometimes it's like, why can't I order my clothes? But that's like the choice that we've made. And I recognize that we are in our 30s and we have time. But I don't want to look back and go, gosh, we were so focused on building our empires that we didn't build our home. This is what frustrates me the most about that children are burdensome. It frustrates me that women who want to be with their kids are made to feel like, well, you really could be doing a whole lot more than that. And they're being robbed of something and being told, well, when you have kids, you're not going to be able to do anything. That hurts my heart. And Courtney, last time she was here, she was talking about, because she's building a business and she was afraid when she had kids she wouldn't be able to do anything. And she said, I realized what a small way of thinking that was. I think when we realize as women that we have the power to so greatly impact our homes, like you're the CEO of your home, you set the mood. Like you set the tone of how your house feels and what it's like and how your kids are. Like you have so much power. Like Andrew doesn't dictate. He doesn't dictate the way our house feels. That's me. And when I realize like I'm the CEO of this, I'm gonna run it. I've got another friend who like she's primarily at home and she has figured out how they can grow vegetables to feed their family for the entire year. She's made it her job to do that. And I don't know, I just think, why do we feel like we can be anything that you do for your family? Well, that can be replaced. Mm-hmm. You can hire someone to do that so that you can, I don't know, I'm probably stepping on some toes, but I just think, why do we feel that way, that it's not valuable to be needed by your family? You'll do things for your CEO that you'll be like, well, I'm really serving them. But when it comes to like doing it for your husband, well, you're just a slave and taskmaster. I'm like, what?
Well, and I think
what are we talking about?
We let other people, whether that be your favorite influencer that you follow on Instagram or whoever whatever you're consuming a lot of, you let that define your priorities instead of you taking the time to define what might be important to you when your phone is off and that doesn't mean, again, I'm not saying so turn off your phones, turn off your TVs, define it. Like, it's not that. It's going, because this is something I'm guilty of, is I will start following, let's say I follow a new person and they, like Katie mentioned in the last episode, they wear linen clothes all the time and they homemake everything and oils. And it's this very holistic thing, like a whole lifestyle change. And I start to adapt. Okay, well, I need to have that. And if I have that, then I'll feel the way that she's portraying online and I'll do this and this and this. But I skipped the step of defining what's important to me. Like, do I have the conviction to live with that because I feel like I want to save more money, so I'm going to make my clothes, or I don't know, just defining what that means and why it's a priority to me instead of I just want to look like I live this lifestyle because it looks trendy and it looks really cohesive on an Instagram feed. And I mean, these are actual thoughts that I've had in the past over just following people and being like, I need to do that. Then I'll be that way. Like, I'll be that calm person, but I'm too loud for that calm lifestyle a lot of the time is what I've come to terms with. But either way I cannot let people who I don't have a relationship with, who I just follow online, this media that I'm consuming, define my priorities in life because I'm going to miss the mark every single time.
Yeah. I also, if you cannot tell by listening to me, I'm old-fashioned, traditional. I have a conviction for it. So I realize it can come off as harsh and whatever. But I also for me personally, I'm not willing to sacrifice time away from my children at home. And so that means it informs every decision. What we do, what we spend, where we go. It's just that important to me. So it has informed those decisions. And I understand that that's not for everyone. But to quote my mama, everything you do, you have to count the cost of it. So if you are missing that you used to do this, you could go back to that, but it will cost you. It will cost you something.
Right.
And if you decide to be home with your children all the time or more often than you thought you would, it will cost you something. And you just have to, at the end of the day, live with what you've chosen. And I want to live with no regrets.
No regrets.
But for Andrew and I, that's where we're at. Like we are just like, we'd rather have less money now and be together more. But that was a transition because for a long time, that was not what it was. And Andrew would come home late and stressed out, and we weren't enjoying our children. And then it really was just like, whoa, what are we doing? How are we living our lives? And so that conviction then has made us make more decisions. And I mean, everyone has to have, you're living from some conviction. No matter what it is, something is informing the decisions that you make. I just think it would be a shame if you let the belief that children are going to ruin everything be what informs all of your decisions.
Well,
that
and
would
I think
just hurt my heart.
Don't you hurt Sallie's heart.
You hurt it.
I'll hurt you. You've heard our stories. I will fight somebody. No, I think our goal with this conversation, because I think this is more of a how Sallie and I really talk to each other. Like, this is an actual conversation that we would have if the microphones were off. And I think our goal with this is not to go, like I said in the beginning, I didn't view this video and instantly feel like, you know what, we've got to address this person because I'm sick of women addressing motherhood like this, and it's disgusting. It's not out of that, like, I'm in such a place that I'm looking down and casting my judgment on others. It's going, man, I used to think a certain way about, motherhood and I had my fears about it, and I didn't want to lose this quote dream that I had in my mind of what I could do. And now being on the other side of that going, I wish that I would have just stepped back for a moment. And I did. I mean, eventually I did. But I remember sitting down with a very, very successful businesswoman who still to this day is, I mean, when I say killing it, I mean killing it. But she also has 5 kids, which is insane to me that she has 5 children and she is running an incredibly successful business, but she will not sacrifice her family time. And it's something that I had a conversation with her. It was years ago. I think it was a year before I actually got pregnant with Everly. And I remember sitting down with her and I was like, I'm just scared. I'm scared to have kids. And she asked me why, but she was too. She had the exact same fear going into motherhood that it would be her giving up on something she was really good at. And she had told me, she was like, I wish that I could just tell you, just go have a kid and you'll see, because you will. She said, but I can't tell you that, but I can tell you it's going to be better than you've ever imagined. And your dreams don't die. Like if anything, it adds fire to your dreams. And I would agree with that in the sense of like, for now, for our home, it's like, oh, I still have a desire to be successful. I still love running a business. I still love going out and photographing weddings. I know some of y'all think I'm crazy for that, but I still love what I do, and it didn't die. If anything, it has added more value to like, what I'm charging people, because my time is a little more valuable now than it was, and just knowledge and all of that grows. But it's like it added a fire under me to grow and run a better business, because I want to have a better home and a better life for my child. And so it's broadened my view of going, oh, this isn't all about me. And thank God, because I can be better when it's not all focused on me.
Yeah. And we live in a very self-centered culture, and everything how is this going to serve me? And I think that's one of the reasons people are frustrated with motherhood, is because, this isn't serving me. Well, sometimes it's just more about serving people and there's not an immediate payoff. And that's sacrificial love. And we are not really accustomed to that. We kind of cut out, anything that doesn't serve me, I'm just going to cut out of my life. And that doesn't work with children. You can't cut them out of your life. You, at the end of the day, after Dot has smeared shortening, I'm still the mother of this child. And I still love her, and I don't want to resent her because she's 2.
Yeah.
But I just have to step back and go, I'm not frustrated with her. I'm frustrated that I have had unrealistic expectations. And it doesn't mean that I can't do the things that I've dreamed and whatever. It just means it's going to be a different pace.
And it also doesn't mean you're a bad person for having those thoughts, which is where I go back to TikTok girl. I don't think she's a bad person or a bad mom or a bad anything. I think she made a video and didn't necessarily think it all the way through. But either way, it's her prerogative, whatever.
Well, I miss being able to fit into jeans that I could fit into pre-pregnancy. And I recognize, so I was telling Holly, the 5 pounds that I have left to lose to get back to pre-pregnancy turned into 8 pounds a couple weeks ago. And I have been trying, and I had a come to Jesus moment of, why is this not working? And then I realized it's because I had a nightstand chocolate bar that I was eating when I was reading a book. I'm like, maybe that's the reason those 5 pounds have turned into 8, because I'm eating a chocolate bar as I'm going to bed. But I was realizing I can't have my chocolate bar and eat it too. Dang it. But it also dawned on me yesterday. I was like, Sallie, what if you can't get back to pre-pregnancy weight because you have birthed 2 humans? I wish I was able to do. There's a lot of things I wish I was still able to do. I can't, because my life isn't the same. It's different.
I'll close with this. We unfortunately had to go to a funeral recently for an old friend, both former and she was older. That's a bad joke. Hopefully a little dark humor, because we do in my house. Anyways, we went, and after we left the funeral, I was talking to Micah, and I said, I'm not trying to get on that annoying high horse of talking about not exactly the conversation we're having, but just, again, drilling home how important time with your family and your friends and all that is. And I said, but it's interesting to me that we go to these funerals or celebration of life, whatever you want to call it, and you sit and you watch the slideshow. And I said, and nothing was listed of the accomplishments that she had, whether that be at work or, you know.
She got a raise in 2014.
Right. While those things play into, you know, your home and what you're able to do, whatever. But what the point that I'm getting at is at the end of our life, like, we're remembered for how we treated people around us and how we walked in a room and how we treated those in that room, whether that be our friends, family, whatever. And that is what we're left with. No one got up to speak about what a fantastic employee she was. And she probably was a fantastic employee. It doesn't disregard any work that she did. It just goes, at the end of your life, though, it's people. She had something that was so impressive to me, and I promise I'm wrapping it up. Something that was impressive to me is she had, like, I think 1 or 2 biological children, but there was like 4 or 5 kids standing up there because she raised them all, because she just took in these other kids and her husband's kid, and everyone just kept talking about she was the mom who was everybody's mom. When the friends would come over, they knew she was there. She would do anything for them, and she loved them exactly where they were at and would do anything, make them any treats they wanted and all of that. And I was just sitting there thinking, man, we're just getting started in motherhood, and going, there's so much opportunity that I'm grateful for as a mom that is on the road ahead of going, like, this is so much bigger than dot smearing chocolate in the kitchen. This is so much bigger than being pregnant. So hard. This is so much bigger than I had a traumatic experience. This is literally life. Like, we're in it, and that's all there is. And so, yeah, that's my hot take. That's my hot take. This has been a long episode.
It has. I just think you have to remember, like, when you lay something down, it doesn't mean it's laid down forever. Yeah. It can be resurrected.
You can do toe touch again later in life.
You know what? I'm going to close with this, my own story. My dad is just amazing. There are so many passion projects that he laid down to do the things that my siblings and I were interested in. And he looks back now, so he's the pastor of a church. He will tell you, when he looks around the room at who's running the church now, it is all of the kids that he was doing things with and for when my siblings were younger. Instead of pursuing the thing that he wanted to do, he pursued the thing that they're doing. And now they are running things so that he has time to do whatever the heck he wants to do. And I think we have a very small view of time and sacrifice that, well, if I had a Vespa before I was pregnant, and once I got pregnant, Andrew wouldn't even let me touch it. And I loved it. It was so much fun. And eventually I realized I can't have this Vespa anymore. And it was really sad because I loved zipping around town on it, but I couldn't use it. And I realized, you know what? Someday Andrew and I are going to have matching Vespas, and I'm going to have a vanity plate that says something funny that matches with his. And our kids will be old enough to stay home, and we will go zip around town and do what we want to. I can't right now because I have a 2 and 1-year-old, and obviously they cannot be left unattended. But just because you lay something down doesn't mean that it's laid down forever. And I think that that's what we have to keep in mind and remember, that sacrifice is not always, it's not forever. Some things are, but if you see the reward, then it's worth the sacrifice. So,
well, I think that was a beautiful conversation. That's all I have to say about that. Hopefully you have enjoyed this episode, or maybe received a new perspective that you hadn't thought about yet, because I think that's our goal with it, is that maybe one person might be able to think differently, especially about motherhood, because as you can tell, we both really enjoy it. Even with all the poop and the chocolate
It's a lot
smeared,
more poop than I realized it was going to be.
And the bites. You guys pray for Everly. I'm just kidding. She's fine. She was over it in a few minutes.
We almost had to cancel the podcast.
We thought, but we're back, baby. As always, we will be back next week with another episode, but we would love for you to leave us a review down below if you're on Apple Podcasts and subscribe because that helps us out. Other than that, I'm very
live long
hungry.
and prosper.
Wow. Okay.
Bye.
Whatever you want to do. All right. Whatever. We're out of here.